We took a look at my North Borneo stamp collection not that long ago. I'd mentioned that it had become my new favourite country to collect, and within that video I separated out these 3 stamps and said that we'd talk about them in a future video. Well, this is that future video. So these were the first 3 that I bought of the orangutan design, and I've since added another 2 that we'll take a look at in a minute. Alright, what we have here is a 6-cent orange-red orangutan stamp issued in 1931. And then a green 10-cent orangutan stamp, and I'm pretty sure that this is from the 1947 series, as it has these obliteration bars at the top. There is a 1939 definitive series of this stamp, which I've still yet to get. But let's take a closer look at that 6-cent stamp. Now, I did mention earlier that I'd bought 2 other stamps, and the one on the left here is one of those more recent purchases. As you can see, it's a slightly cleaner, better example than my original one on the right. Anyway, let's have a chat about them in unison. So these 6-cent stamps were produced in 1931. As we can see by the dates in the top left and right hand corners, we have 1881 to 1931, just there. They celebrate 50 years after the granting of the Royal Charter in 1881, when the North Borneo territories became known as the North Borneo Provisional Association. But forget about that. Instead, feast your eyes on these lovely vignettes, showing this excellent engraving of an orangutan. Look at the details that have gone into creating these mini masterpieces. But this isn't the earliest example of an orangutan featured on a North Borneo stamp. Nope, the 1894 definitive set had this engraving of an orangutan climbing a tree, but it just doesn't compare to the later issues from the early 20th century. Before we discuss the engraver and the other examples that I have, let's chat about this fella here. Orangutans are Asian great apes with long ginger fur. They originally inhabited most of Indonesia and Malaysia, but their population is in sharp decline due to habitat destruction and illegal hunting. They are now only found in the rainforests of Borneo and Sumatra, where their populations have declined by 60% since 1950. Unlike other primates, they spend most of their time living off the ground and in the tropical canopy of the trees, feeding off leaves, fruits, bark, honey, insects, and the occasional bird egg. Every night they build a nest by weaving branches and foliage to construct safe roosting sites, again at near treetop heights. Males and females differ in size and appearance. Dominant males have these big, distinctive cheek pads and make a range of calls to attract females and warn off rivals. So then, who was the genius engraver of this awesome stamp? Well, for some of you, this name might not come as a surprise, but it was none other than J.A.C. Harrison, the engraver of the already now famous Great Britain Seahorses issue of 1913, regarded by most as one of the finest designs ever. He was appointed by Waterlow and Sons and will go on to be the company's main engraver. And we'll leave it there for now when it comes to Harrison's contribution, as we'll chat a little more about him in a future video and take a look at some more of his North Borneo engravings. Right, let's take a look at the remaining 3 10-cent examples that I have. All look the same except for the overprints. Okay, so I've put them in the correct date order as far as I can tell from the overprints, And like I mentioned earlier, I don't yet have a 1939 issue. So going from left to right, we have this one, which has these Japanese occupation overprints on them from 1944. And this is because North Borneo was occupied by the Japanese forces from December 1941 to 1945 during World War II, obviously. By the end of 1945, the island of Borneo was liberated by Australian forces, and then by September 1945, the British military administration took over from the Japanese. And that accounts for this particular BMA overprint from 1945 following the liberation of North Borneo. And then finally, we move on to this stamp, which I did talk about in my previous video. I think this one dates to around 1947, a year after North Borneo became a crown colony. And as such, these black obliteration bars were used to black out the words "the state of" and "British Protectorate." But again, I'm new to this whole North Borneo philatelic journey that I'm on, so please correct me and educate me if I've got some or all of the information wrong. Alright, before I do move on, I'd like to do a shout out and thank you to a couple of my viewers, or maybe they are subscribed to my channel. The first shout out goes to Koji who put me onto the land of the White Rajas, which has been a fascinating study, and I'm still reading about the Brooks family. So thank you very much for that one. Next, a shout out goes to Mike Amos, who educated me about the barred oval cancels that seem to appear on so many of these stamps. Like this one here. As you can see, those lines at the top, these are the ones to avoid. You want to be looking for the actual postally used ones, the circular ones, as we can see on that stamp there. And then finally, my last shout out goes to Willie Coleman, who pointed out that the orangutan on the stamps reminded him of Dr. J.A.C from the Planet of the Apes movies. And one final thing, when it comes to the very early issues of these stamps, the erratic nature of the perforations just seems to be their thing. That's how they are. Don't jump to the conclusion like I did, thinking they were fakes. Anyway, I reckon we'll leave it there for now. Well, if you stayed to the end and have enjoyed this video, then please do subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Turn on the notification bell, and until the next video, bye for now.